There are mornings that arrive quietly, almost too quietly. You open your eyes and something feels off, but you can't quite explain it. You haven't spoken yet, and already you feel like your heart is too full, like something heavy has taken up space overnight. You're not angry, not sad, not scared exactly, but there's a weight you can't name, a thickness in the air around you, a stillness that doesn't feel peaceful. You lie there, still under the covers, your body awake, but your spirit not yet ready. You feel tired, but you don't know why. You feel hungry, but not for food. You feel like someone has wronged you, but no one has spoken. There's no phone call, no message, no confrontation. Just a feeling that something has gone wrong in the spirit while you were asleep, and now you have to wake up inside it. And for the first few minutes, sometimes the first few hours, you say nothing. You stay quiet, you move slowly. You sit on the edge of the bed. You feel the silence around you, not the peaceful kind, the kind that almost speaks back to you, but with no words, the kind that feels like your soul is being told to wait, or to watch, or to prepare for something not yet visible. This is not just tiredness, it's not just mood. This is spiritual. You have not spoken yet, because your spirit is still catching up to what happened while you were asleep. Something in the night passed through your room. Something came near. Something whispered over you in your sleep. And now that you are awake, your body is up, but your spirit is still trying to figure out what was left behind. There is no alarm loud enough to shake that off. There is no breakfast warm enough to dissolve it. There is no to-do list strong enough to push through it. This is deeper than routine. It is not about having a bad day. It is about waking up in the middle of spiritual movement. Without warning, without explanation, you may have had dreams you can't remember. Or maybe you remember them, but they make no sense. Maybe you dreamed of people you no longer talk to, or places you've never been, or symbols that leave a strange feeling behind. Maybe you didn't dream at all, but still, you wake up heavy, and the heaviness has no name. This is how some mornings feel when your spirit has been in battle. You slept, but you didn't rest. Your body was still, but your spirit was not. Your eyes were closed, but your heart was watching. There are nights where the battle does not wait for you to pray. It comes quietly, passes through your door, and wages war in the unseen. You do not always hear it, but your spirit knows it. And when the morning comes, that is what you wake up inside of. A silent war, a quiet residue, a question that follows you from sleep to standing. And because you cannot describe it, you say nothing. Because there is no evidence, you remain quiet. You might feel like speaking will break something delicate, so you protect the silence. You try to get ready for the day, but even the mirror feels distant. The clothes you choose feel like they are for someone else. Your steps feel rehearsed. Your voice feels far away. Even when someone greets you, your reply comes slowly, like it had to travel through fog before reaching your mouth. This is spiritual disconnection, not because something is wrong with you, but because something happened to you, something unseen, and your spirit is sorting through it. It is not always witchcraft. Sometimes it is grief your soul has not named. Sometimes it is fear you buried under yesterday's responsibilities. Sometimes it is discernment rising before your mind has interpreted what it's sensing. Sometimes it is the Holy Spirit preparing you for something that's coming. But other times, yes, it is interference, interruption, an invisible hand that came to rearrange your peace in the night. And now you are waking up with spiritual dust all around you. You don't know what to sweep. You don't know where it's coming from. You just feel it, deep in the soul. And no one else can feel it with you. That's why mornings like these are quiet, because you don't know how to explain a spiritual weight that has no language. You only know that you feel different. This is why some people become silent in the morning. It's not coldness, it's not pride, it's not lack of joy, it's not laziness. It is spiritual awareness in a body that doesn't have answers yet. It is the moment your soul steps into the weight of the day and tries to find where the pressure is coming from. And that takes time, that takes stillness, that takes a moment of waiting before speaking. Because sometimes if you speak too quickly, you speak from confusion, you speak from the emotion of the weight instead of the clarity of the spirit. You speak from reaction instead of discernment. And so you wait, not because you want to, but because something inside you is not ready to be loud yet. It's not ready to be cheerful. It's not ready to act. It's trying to listen. It's trying to adjust. It's trying to ask questions that words can't form. And that's why you sit longer. That's why you stay still. That's why you look at nothing and everything at the same time. There are things we carry that the physical world cannot read. You can be dressed and smiling but still not present. You can walk into a room but not fully arrive because your spirit is still on the edge of something, something unfinished, something that needs to be named. These morning silences are often sacred, not because they are pleasant, but because they are spiritual. And if you ignore them, you walk into the day misaligned. If you dismiss them, you miss what your soul is trying to reveal. If you move too quickly, you miss the message hidden in the feeling. That strange early quiet, that invisible sorrow, that deep breath that doesn't fully calm you, that pause before you speak. It is not random. It is not weakness. It is not emotional confusion. It is a signal, something your spirit is processing, something your spirit is warning about, something your spirit is shielding you from. These moments should not be rushed. They should not be filled with noise. They should be observed gently, honestly, carefully. There are spiritual causes behind that quiet heaviness you sometimes wake up with. Not every morning is just about sleep and waking up. Some mornings are the result of spiritual movement that happened while you were unconscious. While your body was still, your spirit remained active. And depending on what passed through the atmosphere during the night, your spirit may carry traces of what it encountered. This is why some people wake up feeling bruised inside, even though they were not touched. They wake up confused, withdrawn, or emotionally cloudy, even though they went to bed in peace. It is the result of spiritual activity that leaves no physical evidence but real inner effects. One cause is spiritual warfare that happens in the night. In Matthew 13:25, Jesus tells a parable and says, "But while everyone was sleeping, his enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat and went away." This shows clearly that the enemy does not wait until you're awake to begin his work. He moves in the night. He sows confusion, plants sorrow, and sets traps while people sleep. And when morning comes, what was done in the dark begins to show as confusion, emotional exhaustion, and silence that can't be explained. There are also times when your spirit is under attack even though your body feels nothing. The enemy doesn't always need physical tools. He uses monitoring spirits, sent to observe and disturb. These spirits do not always bring loud fear. Sometimes they come as weight. They hover in the room. They sit near the bed. They linger as shadows in dreams or as visitors you can't describe. Their goal is not always to attack openly. Sometimes it's to create confusion, wear down the spirit, weaken discernment, and cause spiritual disconnection. When this happens, you wake up with a sense that something is off. You don't feel whole. You don't feel free. You feel like someone passed through the space and left something behind, and you carry it. Ephesians 6:12 reminds us that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world. These rulers of darkness operate when you cannot see. And even though your eyes were closed, your spirit felt it. Your silence in the morning is sometimes a reaction to that spiritual tension. You are not ignoring anyone. You are not being distant for no reason. Your spirit is still navigating what just happened. And because no one else can see it, it becomes hard to explain. Another spiritual cause is emotional burdens carried in the spirit without words. Sometimes the weight you wake up with is not from demonic visitation, but from personal grief, fear, or sorrow that your spirit has been quietly holding. You may not have cried. You may not have told anyone, but your spirit has been grieving something deeply. Proverbs 14:10 says, "The heart knows its own bitterness, and a stranger does not share its joy." This means there are things the soul carries that are deeply personal. And when those things surface, they do not always come through speech. They show up as silence. They show up in the way you delay speaking, or avoid eye contact, or walk slowly through the morning. Not because you are ungrateful for life, but because your soul is trying to hold something it cannot explain yet. This is why the morning is so spiritual. It is the meeting place between what happened in the night and what is about to begin in the day. If anything happened in the spiritual realm while you slept, whether divine or demonic, you will feel it in the spirit before you can name it in the flesh. That's why your voice takes time to come out. That's why your spirit hesitates. That's why your body might be ready to get up, but your inner self is not yet fully present. It is a sign of spiritual sensitivity, not spiritual weakness. Sometimes silence in the morning is not a reaction, but a message. It is the way God speaks before the noise of the day begins. Psalm 46:10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." That stillness is not just about sitting down. It is about moments when God pulls your soul into quietness so that he can reveal something or shield you from something. You may not understand it at first. You may resist it. You may think something is wrong. But it is in that stillness that God speaks the loudest. You begin to feel impressions. You begin to recall scriptures. You begin to sense warnings or direction, not because of a loud voice, but because of a holy silence that carries weight. This is why it's important not to rush those quiet mornings. Not every day starts the same. Some mornings are sacred, and if you move too quickly, you might walk past what your spirit was trying to tell you. It might be that God is alerting you to pray, or revealing that something is near, or preparing you to handle a conversation later in the day. It might be that your soul is being told to pause because something in the spirit needs to realign. Isaiah 50:4 says, "He wakens me morning by morning, wakens my ear to listen like one being instructed." This verse shows that God can wake you not to speak, but to listen. And if you don't know how to sit in silence, you may miss the instruction. The presence of monitoring spirits, or what some refer to as watchers, also plays a role in these silent, heavy mornings. These are not spirits that always attack directly. Some are sent just to watch your spiritual patterns, track your responses, and study your emotional rhythms. If you wake up sensing a presence that doesn't feel holy, and you can't trace it to any person or dream, it may be the residue of these watchers. They leave no wounds, but they leave atmosphere. They do not speak, but they leave confusion. They do not push, but they create delays. And your spirit senses them. Sometimes, long before your mind can define what is happening, Your soul goes quiet to resist their influence. This is why we are told to be spiritually alert, even during rest. 1 Peter 5:8 warns, be sober-minded, be watchful. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. The enemy does not sleep. And just because your body is at rest doesn't mean you are unguarded. But when the enemy tries to cross into your atmosphere during the night, and when your spirit pushes back, you will feel the tension in the morning. That tension often comes as silence. It comes as that deep pause before words, that long sit at the edge of the bed, that moment where your hands are open, but your thoughts are still closed. That is not just mood. That is not just exhaustion. That is spiritual residue, and the spirit is trying to speak. There's a woman who wakes up every morning at the same time, just before the light begins to rise. No alarm clock, no noise in the house, just a natural stirring that pulls her out of sleep. She lies still for a few moments, staring at the ceiling. The air feels quiet, but not calm. There is a thickness in her chest. Her breathing is shallow, not because she's afraid, but because something is resting there, something she cannot name. Her eyes look toward the curtain, then to the side of the bed. She doesn't move yet. She doesn't feel like speaking. She doesn't feel like greeting the day. Her mind hasn't formed any clear thoughts, but her spirit is already aware. Something is off. She sits up slowly, letting her feet touch the ground. Her hands stay in her lap. She looks around the room and senses that something unseen had passed through in the night. She doesn't remember any nightmare. She doesn't recall any vivid dream. But her heart feels like it had a conversation she cannot replay. Her mouth stays closed, not because she's cold, but because she needs stillness. If someone asked her what was wrong, she wouldn't know what to say. The weight is spiritual. It's quiet, but it's there, and it lingers. This woman moves through her morning like someone walking through fog. She does what needs to be done. She puts on the kettle. She opens the curtains. She stands at the window. The world looks normal, but inside she's in a different space. Her silence is not emptiness. It is depth. It is awareness. Her soul is listening. Her spirit is searching. She does not want to rush the moment. She knows from experience that when she speaks too soon on mornings like this, her words come out too sharp or too soft. They miss the mark. They come from confusion instead of clarity. So she waits. She lets the silence do its work. There are many like her. People who wake up and do not speak immediately. People who need time before interacting. Not because they are disconnected, but because they are deeply connected. Their spirit has been stirred during the night. And what they carry when they wake up is not always something they can explain. Sometimes it's a warning. Sometimes it's grief. Sometimes it's warfare residue. Sometimes it's an unspoken instruction from God. But it always comes as a feeling that something in the spirit needs to be understood before they move into the day. This inner dialogue begins before any outer conversation. It's the voice of the spirit, gently questioning, what was that? Why do I feel this? Where did that come from? Is this mine or someone else's? These are not dramatic questions. They are quiet reflections. They come softly, but they carry weight. It's why people who are spiritually sensitive may seem emotionally withdrawn early in the morning. But it's not emotion. It's discernment. It's spiritual posture. They are waiting for understanding before they engage the world around them. The Bible gives us examples of people who move this way. In Genesis 28:16, Jacob wakes up from a dream where he saw a ladder reaching to heaven. When he opened his eyes, his first words were not full of energy. He didn't jump into action. He said quietly, "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it." That verse shows us that waking up is not always about rushing into the day. Sometimes waking up is about recognizing that something spiritual happened and taking time to respond. Psalm 5:3 says, "In the morning, Lord, you hear my voice. In the morning, I lay my requests before you and wait expectantly." That waiting is not passive, it's reflective, it's aware, it's rooted in the understanding that mornings are not just for movement, they are also for listening. There is wisdom in stillness, there is revelation in silence. Some mornings will not feel light, and that doesn't mean something is wrong, it means something is present. And the soul needs time to perceive it. The heaviness you wake up with may be a result of spiritual interaction that occurred in the realm you cannot see. It may not be about what you did, it may not be about your plans, it may not even be about you personally. Sometimes your spirit picks up on the atmosphere of your home or someone connected to you. Sometimes you are sensing spiritual activity that was meant to pass through you, and your silence is a defense, a sacred shield that keeps you from speaking too quickly, reacting too soon, or aligning with the wrong emotion before your spirit understands the truth. This is why the silence of the morning should not be interrupted too fast. Sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do in the early hours is not speak. Just observe, just breathe, just listen inwardly, because the spirit speaks quietly, and the enemy attacks quietly too. Both can leave a presence behind, and your job is to recognize the difference. The voice of God will settle your soul, even if it doesn't answer everything. The voice of the enemy will confuse the soul, even if it pretends to bring comfort. And in those early moments, your soul can tell, not always through words, but through stillness, through wait, through that unexplained pause in your heart. Some spiritual battles are not loud. They don't come with fear or fire. They come silently, through whispers in dreams, through presence in the room, through atmospheres that change the way your spirit feels. These battles are quiet because they are not meant to scare you. They are meant to wear you down without you noticing. That's why the silence is your first defense. The quietness of your soul in the morning is often the sign that your spirit is resisting something. It's holding space. It's waiting on God. In Exodus 14:14, Moses told the people, "Now, the Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." This wasn't just about standing in place, it was about spiritual posture. There are moments in life, especially in the morning, where stillness is not inactivity, it is strategy. It is how you protect your peace, how you protect your clarity, how you avoid becoming part of the confusion that wants to settle into your day. When you wake up to a silent morning filled with heaviness, your first response matters. There is no need to panic. There is no reason to feel ashamed of your silence. Not every morning needs to begin with energy. Not every beginning is meant to be fast. Some mornings are spiritual checkpoints. The way you respond sets the tone for the rest of the day. It is not weakness to be still. It is not strange to be quiet. The soul often understands more in silence than in speech. You do not have to explain the feeling. You do not have to justify your pause. If your spirit is quiet, remain quiet. Let the moment settle. Let your soul catch up. The body may be awake, but the spirit often lingers in the last place it fought. The battle does not always end with sleep, and when you rise, you carry what your spirit endured. That's why the silence has weight. It is the after effect of movement in the unseen. Ecclesiastes 3:7 says, "There is a time to be silent and a time to speak." When your morning feels heavy, Silence is not avoidance, it is timing. You must learn to tell the difference between natural silence and spiritual silence. Natural silence comes from routine. It comes when you are simply not in the mood to talk. It passes quickly. Spiritual silence carries a different weight. It is not rooted in mood. It is connected to something deeper, a sensing, a signal, a message in your spirit that tells you to pause, to wait, to listen. This type of silence lingers until its purpose is complete. And if you try to push through it, you may miss what God is trying to reveal. Some mornings are not meant to be rushed. Proverbs 2:2 says, "Make your ear attentive to wisdom and incline your heart to understanding." Wisdom often comes in stillness. You cannot force it. You cannot manufacture it. You receive it by posture, by positioning yourself to hear, not just externally, but inwardly. The heaviness you feel may be the Lord drawing your spirit into attention. Not with noise, not with dreams, just with stillness that speaks. Sometimes the silence is protection. The Spirit may be shielding you from saying something that would open a door prematurely. Your silence becomes a barrier between your spirit and premature action. It becomes a space for you to realign, to gain clarity, to recognize what's going on around you spiritually. If you rush into speech without spiritual understanding, you may speak from confusion. You may misplace your words. You may step out of timing. Silence guards you. Isaiah 30:15 says, "In quietness and in trust shall be your strength." That quietness is not just physical, it is spiritual. It is the space where strength is restored before movement begins. There is also discernment to be developed in these quiet moments. When you rise and feel something is off, the goal is not to ignore it or to explain it away. The goal is to discern what is being communicated to your spirit. This takes patience. This takes training. It takes familiarity with God's patterns in your life. Hebrews 5:14 reminds us that maturity comes from having our senses trained to discern good and evil. This includes spiritual atmospheres, even in the morning. You train yourself to recognize what is yours and what is foreign, what is divine and what is demonic, what is emotional and what is spiritual. And not all silence is the same. There are mornings when your silence is an invitation into communion with God. There are others where silence is the result of spiritual tension or warfare residue. And there are some mornings where silence simply holds sorrow. Knowing the difference allows you to respond rightly, without fear, without guilt, without rushing, and without pretending. Spiritual sensitivity is not dramatic. It is stable. It is quiet. It is discerning. It is the ability to sit in the weight of a moment without reacting from flesh. Psalm 143:8 says, "Let the morning bring me word of your unfailing love, for I have put my trust in you." The word of the Lord in the morning is not always loud. It can come as stillness, as weight, as a quiet conviction in your heart. And sometimes it is not a new word. It is a continuation of something God has already been showing you, now surfacing again through silence. When this happens, you do not need to force it to be more than it is. You simply need to remain open, watchful, soft in spirit, attentive in your thoughts, willing to sit with the silence until it makes sense. In conclusion, the heaviness you feel when you wake up in the morning is not always a problem to fix. It is not always an emotion to escape. It is often a signal, a doorway into something deeper, something invisible, something sacred. And your silence in those moments is not failure. It is not strangeness. It is spiritual alignment. Stillness is not weakness. Waiting is not delay. Quiet mornings do not mean you are disconnected. They often mean you are being drawn closer. Let that awareness grow without guilt, without panic, without the need to explain. Just quiet understanding, spiritual steadiness, and the grace to let the morning speak without rushing it.